to uphold the law of the state of California. And here you, in your sanctimonious, measured, careful way, it infuriates me. And I'm sure I'll be rebuked, not only by the chair, who has indeed supported your inadequate data, who has indeed supported your protestations of the amount of time you have invested in this. Of course you've invested time in it. You've invested a lot of time in it because you stand to benefit from it. So it's not a moral issue with you. It's a business issue. But sir, you have just here acknowledged that you have rented out, once again, you have been renting out units that you are not permitted to rent out. And the evidence is precisely there. And I would not make that statement unless I had a basis for making it. So I want you to understand, and I want the so-called Mendocino, what is it called, newspaper, to understand that it is not rudeness on my part that motivates my reaction. But sometimes, you know, when you hear someone standing up and running through a particular agenda that benefits him and only him, and taking advantage of the county, a county that is uncomfortable with having to do things that it would prefer not to do. And that allows you to engage in activities that involves a lot of people. I can understand why we get the kind of response that we have got here, where in fact we're told that there are over 200 letters that have been presented, or petition items. The only problem with that argument here is when that statement is made, I'm sure it comes down, is people who are supporting your position. The only problem is 2/3 of those letters come from people outside the area, do not live in Mendocino. We're talking about the people who live in Mendocino. We're talking about the people who have a vested interest here. So if you'll excuse me, Mr. Chairman, but this is addressed more to you than anything else, I would not mind being rebuked for rudeness, and it's appropriate. But I feel that this board should be rebuked for not taking responsibility for dealing with something that's been out there and before us for a much longer time than we would like to acknowledge. And if we're going to pretend that that does not exist in that form, then let's just all go home, call the 5:30 rule, and end it. But I'll tell you, I find it very exasperating to be going through this again and being given statistics and asked to believe it when I know that you're in no position to present anything to me for me to believe, because I know you have no problem renting out rooms, renting out facilities there that you know, the community knows, that you are not permitted to do what you are doing. And it's a kick in the teeth. So when I get kicked in the teeth a couple of times, after a while, I kind of react and say, you know, that hurts. And it does hurt. It really hurts to have to say this to someone who represents himself. And Noah, you know what's going on as well. It hurts to see your esteemed attorney representing the position, whether I agree with his logic or anything else. The fact is, he's got a client who we know, and people in the community know, is not. You pick the word.
Thank you, Supervisor. You do stand rebuked on your rudeness, not on the content of your discussion or your statement.
Can I just respond to one thing that you said?
Sure.
Of the letters, there's 238 of those letters, and 192 of the letters actually came from people that either live in Mendocino or the zip codes along the coastline there. You know, do business, shop, etc. in the village of Mendocino. There was only 46 people on that list that are outside the area, and I think even the ones that are outside the area are important because this is a visitor serving issue.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the board at this time? Okay, I'll close the public hearing, bring this item back before the board. Public comment is no longer allowed. and bring the proposal of an action to the board. And I await that said action. Supervisor Delmar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got my timeline here, and so Mr. Lynch, if I'm inaccurate on some place, let me know. In 1997, the board approved the application for these units. In 1998, the Coastal Commission approved this application. In fact, the Coastal Commission said, according to their minutes, in terms of new development, it is consistent with the Coastal Act Policy 30250A. Coastal Commission said in regard to visitors serving facilities, that is, if visitors serving facilities are high priority coastal land use under the Coastal Act, and the Commission finds that the proposed amendment is consistent with the provisions of sections 30213, 30222, and 30254 of the Coastal Act. Further states that in this particular case, that there will be no conversion of residential units resulting from the density increase. Thus, the residential visitor serving balance will not be compromised. New facilities will not be established, and the location outside the town core will limit traffic impacts that might otherwise be associated with the project. In 1999, that decision was stayed by Judge Cox due to an issue regarding comments at the Coastal Commission. In 2004, Judge Cox's decision was corrected and overwritten by Judge Lacasse. In 2005, the application came back before the board, and it was denied without prejudice on a 4-to-1 vote, and the county was instructed to, quote, get its house in order. In 1997, the data that came before us showed that there were available units. There was a question at that time as to the accuracy of that data because the data wasn't compiled by county staff. In 2005, it was deja vu. And I remember sitting up here and saying, okay, did we not have the time to walk up and down the street and count the number of rooms, because the same data still hadn't been updated by staff, and data still showed at that time that there were rooms available. So fast forward to only 3 years. In government time, that's a blink of an eye. In 2008, staff has twice brought forward data that showed available rooms. The Arts Center has been the center of discussion since 1997. Not once in those 12 years have I seen the Arts Center say, whoa, time out, all 19 rooms are valid. Not once in 12 years. And they've been the center of discussion time and time again. Am I accurate so far? I may have missed a step or two. It's only been 12 years.
Can I interrupt just a second?
Sure, why not?
Just for the public's knowledge, no panic is required. The lights are about to go out here at 6 o'clock. They'll come back on automatically. It's just a routine energy conservation thing. So it's not a doing business in the dark, okay? Sorry.
That's all right. So, in fact, there are several